Hey everyone, we're here. I'm here with Linda,
Hey everybody.
Linda Hrcka, and she is the famous machine quilter that does lots of my things. And we have a treat for you today. Lots and lots of samples of Linda's work.
Lots of fun.
Yes,
Went
yes, yes,
through.
yes.
It was like
So,
a trip down memory lane.
yeah, today, quickly, not last minute.
Yes.
We don't really
No.
like plan very well, but we're kind of last minute girls. But first, I want to talk about the fact that Lynn and I have been
Redwood.
hanging out for a couple days.
Yes, we have. I'm in Wisconsin. I live in Michigan, in case anyone didn't know that. But I'm visiting in Wisconsin, the mothership.
Yeah, so we've been sewing, we've been
Sewing.
shopping, we've
been
been going
eating.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Doing all the fun things. But today's work day.
yes, today we have to come to work. But we've been, I mean, when we're sewing, that's working.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, technically.
All right, so Linda, I want her to talk about what she's been working on at night when we're stitching.
Yes, so I have redware gatherings, and Jess reminded me that this is just coming to shops. So they'll be rolling out kits soon, but just to be patient.
Yes, it's supposed to land this week.
And look at how awesome it is. Look at these reds, guys. I mean, if everyone isn't getting this, because it's going to sell out, I'm telling you, because I'm making a beautiful quilt with it. I've been working on a new project that'll be coming out October 1st that I'm really excited about. Stitch Pink with Moda. It's going to be a free quilt, a block a day. So I kind of got a little jump start on it, and I was fortunate enough to get some redware gatherings, and I have red work. Excuse me. I always want to. I'm sorry. Red work gatherings. So I have been making. I brought a little sample box that we've been stitching on that Kaylee will show right here. So there's a couple of applique blocks, and then there's more piecing, and then there's some that are really simple. But it's so beautiful and gorgeous. I've had so much fun. And I basically worked on just out of a fat quarter tower and some backgrounds. But we've been piecing away. I have just a few more blocks to go to get to my 30. And I brought them here. Brought them on my trip and brought sewing. When Lisa's cousin came and picked me up, she was like, how long are you staying for? So much stuff. And I was like, well, I'm going to be sewing here too. So that's been fun. And Lisa's been working on her new line, doing all the piecing. So if you wonder how she gets it all done, she is like the fastest piecer alive.
Yeah, I was really excited to get done what I got done this morning. I'll show it to you in one of our next lives. You'll be sick of red, white, and blue by the time I'm done. Trust me, you will be.
Yeah. But we're going to show all the other quilts like that I've done over the years. Lisa asked me how many quilts that I've quilted for her, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I was like,
yeah. And
I have no idea.
Just lose count because how long has it been?
2011. I started almost 10 years.
Okay, so I think we wouldn't do it justice if we didn't give your background a little bit. So when did you start quilting, and how did you become a machine quilter?
Okay, so I started quilting in 2002. I found an ad in the paper that said make a quilt, and I signed up, and it was like at a senior citizen activity center thing, and so I was the youngest quilter, and I did it when my twin daughters were a year old to kind of get out of the house on Saturdays. So technically I was doing it then. I did everything on my domestic machine that I had to go buy, and I went and bought a $299 cheap Bernina, like the Burnett, and my husband thought that was so crazy, like expensive. Like little did he know. So then fast forward, I got my long arm in January of 2011. It was delivered, and I decided to jump in with both feet. I went in 2010 to get like a second sewing machine, and that's when I found the long arms, and I just taught myself and jumped in with both feet, and went from there, and kind of worked my regular jobs during the day and quilted during the night, like from 9 till 3 in the morning, went to bed for a few hours, and then got my girls up and went to work and did work my regular day job and quilted all night to get going on it. So I met Lisa in 2011. So I started really quilting, accepting quilts from others probably in like March of 2011, quilting for others, and I met Lisa in November, October, 2011.
Not
I
soon
went with
enough.
I went with girlfriends on a retreat to Lisa's in Wisconsin. You just like kind of the retreat house was new.
Yeah, like less than a year probably.
Right, less than a year.
Yeah.
And we drove to Lisa's and just for a regular retreat, and my girlfriend Patty was talking to Lisa, and she's like, well, Linda Long Arms, you should see her stuff. And I was just like wanting to die. I was like, I would never like name drop myself or say that I could create for Lisa or quilt for Lisa, because she was like my idol. And Lisa looked at my stuff and she was
like, oh hell yeah, let's do this.
She was like, I'm sending a quilt with you when you go home. And I thought she was just joking.
I could recognize right away that she was, gonna be very, very good. And when they only told me she was only quilting for, X amount of time, I'm like, okay, yes, you are going to do this. So she's like, I can't believe you're going to send me a quilt. I'm like, why not? So
yeah. So she sent me a quilt. It actually wasn't her design. She just like gave it to me. And then I think like a week after I got back from Wisconsin, she called me and she was like, do you remember who I am? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm going to send you this other quilt and it's going to be in a magazine. And I was like, awesome. No pressure. I was like, no pressure. I was like, sure, I can do it. And then I was like crawling underneath on the floor, like in the fetal position, because I told my husband, I was like, I can't believe I told her I would do it. It's like,
was that Christmas for you?
Yeah. It was Christmas for real.
Yeah.
So
that was even early on in my fabric designing.
Yes.
Because I think that was my second line.
Yeah. Second line. Yeah. So it was like I said, no pressure at all for a new quilter. I didn't know what I was doing. And we've been together ever since. She told me right from the get-go, she was like, I will keep you busy.
No problem.
You will not have to worry about, work or whatever. So she was right. It was.
So we have a ton of quilts to go through.
And more importantly, we became friends, through all that.
And I think what's even more amazing, well, how can you not be friends with you? But what even is more amazing is our husbands are friends.
Yes. They're like best friends.
Yeah, they're like two peas in a pod. They're like
texting.
They're like the same guy, only reincarnated, kind of.
Trips together. Nick's been several times to our
Nick goes
house.
to Linda's more than I do. Yeah.
So it's worked out. The girls have come here. They've kind of
come on vacation.
We've been to California to Lisa's and stayed with their son, and so we've.
But it's been a little while since I've seen you now. I mean, I know I saw you in Houston.
Right.
But before briefly. That.
Yeah, it was kind of hard. Like we had stuff going on, and then I was supposed to come, and I had little.
Because now you're teaching all over the country, and I'm teaching all over the country, and it's just kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. Right. So, but it's been a fabulous ride. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
Like I said, she asked me.
We'll have to do something really special for our 10th anniversary.
She's like, you have kept track. I was like, yeah, I have it at home, but I don't know offhand. I mean, when we go through names of quilts, someone emailed me recently and asked me about a quilt, and I was like, I never did that quilt. And then she sent me a picture of it, and I was like, oh yeah, I did. And I was like, you have to pardon me, but I don't know the names of them when I get them.
Right. No, because a lot of times they're not named yet.
Yeah, they're not named. They're very early on. They were she just finished them, or someone finished them, and I get them. So that's why I don't know what they're called.
And did you talk about you have two twin daughters?
Yep, I have twin daughters. They are sophomores in college. They're identical. They are at college. And they're making it work.
I was told she's the best college mom ever. Like she sends all these care packages to the frat house and
to the sorority.
They're
in a sorority. They live in a sorority house.
I go to college.
They live in a sorority house, but yes, that's what they told me. They're the envy of others.
Yeah,
I do. I send them. They're about 2 hours away from home, but yeah, I do send them stuff. I look for things to send them. So I was like, I'll send them that. So it makes it easier.
Okay, so we talked about redware.
Yep, we talked about redware. Stitch Pink
will
be starting, so I'll be posting about that.
A block a day.
You'll
see that, and I will try to.
Lisa's gonna share
your posts
because the quilt is just gorgeous. We had the blocks laid out.
Yeah, she had you only need 3 more, right? You have 27 done.
Yep.
Right.
Do we want to go back? Someone's asking what you're teaching.
Okay, so I teach machine quilting. Long arm specifically, but you can do it on. I started as a domestic quilter. I don't have any of my samples here, but I did start on a sit-down machine. But I will be talking about kind of the quilt designs and how I come up with them, or quilting on flannel, which is a big thing for Lisa. I get so many questions about quilting on flannel or quilting on the wool, things like that.
Yeah, and as we go through the quilts, if you want to ask some questions, yeah, we have Jessica's over there taking, or she was over there.
She was over there.
Yeah, so the girls will write down your questions and we will go through some of them at the end. And this might be kind of a long video, so bear with us. You know, it'll be there if you can't watch it all now. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook. We will put it back up. So don't think you have to stay here the whole time with us, but I know she's going to have tons of good information for you. Jessica, do you want to help answer questions? Okay. So I think we should talk about, you know what we've won awards on, and I don't.
Yeah, Lisa, she's so funny. She's like, this never won anything. I was like, it won first place in Paducah last year. The fall show.
But I'm like, no, but then we were disappointed about something, so I thought we didn't win. She's like, no, we won. We just didn't win any big prizes.
We didn't win the overall prizes, like the big ones, because the voting or what, I don't even know how it works. Because I always tell people I'm not a show quilter. I'm a working girl. We send them and we're just happy if they do well, you know, kind of a thing. I just try to do my best, but I wouldn't say that we're planning out a show.
No, we don't.
There's never planning out a show.
Yeah,
there's always like a book deadline, fabric deadline.
Tell them what you mean by that, because there are certain people that just
There's amazing. I mean, I love show quilts, and there's such amazing quilters out there, but they are working for a show quilt. Like this is going to be. It's not going to travel.
It's going to run the show circuit. Like
a
lot of quilters make quilts for that reason.
Exactly, and they're amazing.
Right.
And so the fact that we can have a quilt that even competes with those
is amazing. Yes. Because we make quilts that anybody can make. We don't, I don't,
anybody.
Like, I can't make a lot of those show quilts. There's no way.
No, I don't even
maybe if I didn't have to do anything else.
If I spent 2 years on a quilt,
but we don't get 2 years doing.
Yeah, I told Lisa, I was like, we were talking about which quilts mean a lot to us that we've done together, and which mean more to her, which mean more to me. Like this quilt is gorgeous and beautiful, but I don't want to see it again. It's like we're done with each other. Where, so they're really not, like, I don't have a.
And this is Twilight Garden, and this was the block of the week for 2018. So it's hard for me to remember some of these. So if I am wrong, somebody correct me, but come on up. And Kaylee, get some great shots of her awesome quilting.
Yeah, so this is flannel with wool applique. So, and it's flannel on the back. And this has 2 layers of batting. It has it has Quilter's Dream 70-30 and Hobbs 80-20 over the top. Those are just a combination that I like. I really like the 70-30 Quilter's Dream as a base. Because I can kind of pull and tug on it and it doesn't stretch or tear or move out of place, and it provides a really nice base for layering is why I like it. And I put wool over it. I put sometimes whatever I have if I want to double bat. The only reason I double bat is I really wanted the quilting to show on this. It's a dark fabric, and sometimes the darker fabrics don't highlight the quilting as much. I mean, I love light or dark. It's not that, but I really wanted the quilting to stand out in this, so that's why.
And that's why this stands out, is because there's 2 battings in there, right? Mm-hmm. And even though you pressed this down,
the flannel does amazing at showing you guys. If you haven't quilted flannel, it's my favorite because your stitches just sink into it like beautifully, like beautiful tension.
And the information that you're talking about, like people who are taking their quilts to the long armor, you can write this information down. Or if you're a long arm quilter yourself, you can take notes on Linda's techniques and stuff like that. But I strongly suggest when we're able to teach again, that you take a class from Linda. So if that's ever an opportunity, you better.
They want to know if you're going to have her teach at your shop.
You bet. You bet. You bet.
Yes.
I'd be crazy
when
not
I
to
keep
take
saying
that situation.
when we get you guys, like, hopefully, I mean, God willing, when we look back, maybe it might be longer than a year, but hopefully it's not. But we'll look back at this time and we'll just be thankful we made it through and we can go back to or get some type of new normal or whatever that is, and we can take classes like that and see each other again.
All right. So again, Twilight Garden. And I think
Jeff.
Judy C is going to get all of the quilts that we are talking about.
All right, hang on a second. Some people are saying they lost the stream. Jess, do you have us? Okay.
Okay.
Keep going. Sorry.
Right. So it must be their internet.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the quilts. Judy at home is putting all the quilts we're going to be talking about on the Live with Lisa. And just give her some time because we didn't really give her the list.
Yeah, we kind of did it. We went through.
Yeah, we kind of
after-
like we're at the last minute still going through quilts. So if you don't see what we talked about there, just wait a little bit and she'll get those on, you know, by the end of today for sure. And all she's doing is moving them into that category. All right. So Twilight Garden, do we have, are we on like, what are we doing for this? Full kit only?
Full kit only, but in about 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months there. It's going to take us that long to put this together because of all the stuff that we do here for the summer block of the week. And we are so thankful that you are so patient with how long it takes now
It's
because
just taking.
yeah,
longer.
we work with limited crews and actually we have some really good problems that people are waiting for our stuff and that we are so appreciate the fact that you guys are home stitching and wanting this stuff.
Right. And I just, before we move on, I get questions about the quilting. So I just real quick why this is up here. As far as the quilting goes, because I have seen some beautiful recreations of the quilting. So I'm glad that you guys or your long armors are able to do that for you. So when I look at a quilt like this, I take a picture of it unquilted and I tend to draw on it. I know you can get lots of great software like with your iPads or your phones and you can draw right on that. I don't typically do that. I just am real low tech and take a picture of it, copy it, and then kind of draw on that a little bit. And I have some type of idea, but I like to look at areas and kind of connect the whole quilt together, either with designs or whatever it is. And, you know, I'll take this area and how can I connect it to this block? And so you can see the feathers kind of do that. And I use my rulers and templates to create those.
Right. And we'll talk about your rulers
areas.
and templates all
Yep.
at the end.
We'll do that.
Or
Yep.
unless you want to
So-
point them out.
Well, I can just, I don't want to reach in front of Kelly. Like I can grab one and I can just see like if they're long enough, what's going to get me from here to here. So you can see that this 34 for my ruler is what does that.
So are you marking that or are you just using your foot?
So you can do both. Usually like a quilt look like this, I might draw it out with like some bone chalk that comes off really easy just to give me like a light kind of like a template of where I want them to go. And then I will quilt, I'll hold my ruler up there and stitch out my spine.
So it's nice and
kind of a
even.
thing. Yep.
So it's not any herky jerkiness.
Yep, because a lot of times, especially on fabric like this, you might not be able to see it really well as you're quilting with it. So that's where when people ask me all the time, like, how do I pick which size ruler or where I use them? That is a prime example. This isn't going to get me to point A to point B, where the next size up will. So if that helps, that seems to help others when they're like, how do I know which ones do I need? I'm like, I just lay them out like a puzzle on my quilt top, and I go from there and just kind of look at how they fit with my quilt. So Lisa's got quilts out there.
I know. So I thought we'd start with some of the piece quilts.
Yes, that's awesome.
Okay. So, and this was one this is the last piece quilt you just did.
I just did this late.
Right. And you've seen this and we're pretty proud of this little bugger.
Yeah. So this is I can't remember. I don't know what it's called, guys, because like I said, I never get names. So
I wrote it down, but what is
Stately.
it? Stately.
Yes.
And what I'll just talk a little bit about. I'll just talk a little bit about it, and then Linda will talk about the quilting. So this is obviously one background, 5 mini charms it took to make this, and I used one line. But wouldn't this be cool if you collected some of the red, white, and blue lines and mixed them all together? Like I think we're gonna make another one with all of my other pieces from the mini charms from the previous lines. All right, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so this is obviously a very patriotic, Americana type quilt. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to kind of let that talk to me. I didn't include feathers, which anyone who knows me really well knows that my feathers, when I'm in a slump, that's what my go-to. I'll make them work. But I didn't add this to this, but you can see a lot of straight line quilting, and kind of that's like a fireworks burst. You know, Lisa's fabric has that. I don't know if you saw that. So my quilting, I draw inspiration from her fabric lines all the time for these. So that's kind of the theme. So it's kind of a bursting star. There's actually a star in the center, and there's a in this spot, this is double batted as well, but there's an extra piece of wool that's just under this area
That you just laid in there.
Yeah,
right?
I just laid in there. And when I sent the picture of it to Lisa, she's like, "That looks like it's about 6 inches off." I said, "It's not that high."
It looked really fat.
I
and
said,
puffy.
"It's my handy camera work how I'm doing it."
Yeah.
But I combine like straight quilting with curves. Usually, I like to. Curves are very forgiving, so that's why I like to. If not that Lisa's pacing is awesome and very accurate, but curves are very forgiving. So if things aren't perfect, you can really hide things really well. So.
And when I gave you this, I said, make it so like a beginner could quilt this. Remember me saying that?
So that's why I wanted to include a lot of straight lines.
Because I could see like people coming with this top piece to a class, and then you actually like work on a working quilt versus just a plain, fabric.
Exactly.
So that's what I really thought that we could maybe do.
With this, you can see like motifs. So we have like the star end, a star end here. So that's where that's coming from. Like, so here's the star. So repeating, basically bringing a motif that's out here and bringing it in here. And this is my fill. And
tell them what you call that.
I call it refrigerator coils. Because when I taught in Canada years ago, my friends I was calling it like a chevron, and they kind of coined it, and I just stuck with it because it's my favorite fill. It goes very quickly for me, and it looks nice. And I freehand that. I don't use my rulers with this. It's just
yeah, you're just that good at it. Again, so this is Stately. This is a pre-order coming up. But yeah, that's why I thought this would make a really cool class. Like they come with this easily
this is a great with all that negative space that has lots of room for quilting that you could put any number of things. Or, you could do an edge to edge sew. I never knock edge to edges. They all have their place.
Definitely. So yeah, we'll have to maybe sometime talk about when you look at a quilt, whether it should be edge quilted or whether it needs to be heirloom quilted.
Right. So, here's one of those. This is box of candy.
Yeah,
I believe boxes of candy. So this is what I call wavy crosshatch, and it's one of my favorites. Super forgiving. I use the piecing as how I'm going to divide those up.
So do you mark a grid?
I do. Like real quick, I mark a grid with your choice of marking, a purple air erasable or chalk, whatever's going to show up best on your fabric. And I use my rulers my straight rulers have a 90-degree, a 45 that goes both ways. So you can use it any way that go the length of the ruler, and we'll show those at the end. So it's really easy. It takes me 2 seconds to mark this off, like that ruler. And I can go from here to here because I have a ruler that's long enough to do that. And then I just do freehand the wavy stitch. But you can see this is an album quilt. It's pretty, it's repetitive, but you'll see there's different block motifs in each of them, and it kind of goes in a barn raising pattern. So this one is all around here, and then we grab this design, and then this design, and then that, and then I returned back to the one that's on the outer. And if you've ever had me I teach off of this quilt. I show pictures of it, and we do many of the designs in here that are a mix of curved and straight quilting.
We might have to do an intermission, Kaylee.
This is heavy.
Heavier.
Yeah.
Okay. I should have some helpers here to have these ready.
Yeah, we had helpers. I wonder what they
I know. They all. As soon as the camera starts rolling, everybody vanishes.
So this is an awesome beginner quilt, right?
This is not a beginner
quilt.
Okay.
Quilting it would be more beginner quilt.
Beginner, maybe machine quilting quilt. Yeah.
So this one is
Feeling Frosty. Yes, it was pieced by Carol Charles for me. She's a master quilter, so I gave her this one because those triangles, there's a lot of bias going on there. So this for sure needed to be starched. But It's a rendition of an antique quilt that I had in my collection.
Yep, and this one is super easy machine quilting. Lots of ruler work, but I didn't draw these. I'm just taking this one's my little BFF ruler, and I call it my BFF because I use it constantly. I'm just flipping it back and forth, and it has the same curve on both sides, so it goes super fast.
What you mean by that is like you're like lining this point to this point and quickly stitching it, right?
Quickly stitching it and going through it. Same thing with the straight line, echoing this, and then moving on to the next one. My goal is always to do, if I can, one start and stop, meaning I'm going to start on that side of my quilt and I'm going to work my way to this side of the quilt or work my way back, and I'm not going to tie off and restart again. So
that might be like a whole class too on how to be efficient.
Start and stop. I don't always start. I'm always a faster quilter at the end of the quilt than I am at the beginning.
Well, yeah, because you're figuring out what you're doing too, right?
Yes, and I try to keep track of my time, and I try to beat myself.
It's like
a race with myself to see.
Oh, this one.
So one of the things I always tell Lisa is I want to do the best work I can for her, but in the most efficient time. So this is Riding Out the Storm. This is an oldie but a goodie. So yeah. This is beautiful. This has just feathers around here, just some little framing quilting, and then these pretty like banners with the curves and the feathers in this. Yeah. So this is pretty.
Yeah, kind of like a little box of a log cabin, right? Log cabin, but yet with a pinwheel in the center. And I don't know if you noticed, but I like to name my quilts after songs.
I knew that.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of music, and I'll be like, oh, this would be a really good quilt name. So Riding the Storm Out is, of course, REO Speedwagon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Doors, but that's a
different
song.
No. Oh, yeah. Lots of negative space in this quilt. So this is half square triangle mania going on here. So if you love the half square triangles like I do, this is just a variation of a 9-patch with the pinwheels as the 9-patch blocks with a spacer. And then Linda?
Yep, there's so I quilted in here and kind of just ditched these around, but not in there because that would be a ton of work, and it was just overkill to do like a continuous curve on those. These are all freehand. I did do a feather with straight lines, so this has some ruler work, but here I'm using one of my ruler templates as the spine again, so I'm flipping it back and forth and creating hills and valleys. I believe I used the number 8 out of my ruler set, so I'm just flipping them back and forth so I have a nice even border like that. Yep. Make it fast. Always looking for fast shortcuts if I can.
I think okay, you got it. All right,
we'll just grab a stack.
Grab a stack over there.
You want to do
so do we have any questions, Jess, on the first couple?
They wanted to know where Stately was from.
What is from?
Stately.
Stately is from the new American Gatherings fabric line that will be out in January. So if you want to, you can go on our website, you can pre-order that kit, or you can pre-order any of the fabrics that's all already on our site. But that fabric line is like doing awesome. So they're selling it right now to all the stores. And make sure you go to your local quilt shop or call them or text them or email them and say, hey, make sure you're getting American Gatherings, because I think this is going to be an awesome fabric line for Quilts of Valor. I think we're all a little patriotic right now wherever we go. We were at Walmart. Linda dragged me to Walmart. I usually don't go to Walmart, but we were on a Starch run.
Yeah.
And they had like red, white, and blue M&Ms. They had red, white, and blue Skittles. They had a whole bunch of
pumpkins.
Yeah, they had all kinds of stuff there. Okay, this is called Final Four, and it's 4 big blocks. Big, easy, half square triangles, 4 big blocks. This quilt was a breeze to make. Do you remember where we were when I made this?
We were in Paducah, and we won with Words to Live By.
Yeah.
We won second place. That quilt one a few times. Second
Yeah,
place
so
first.
when we go to shows, a lot of times we're still working because we have all these deadlines to get stuff done. So this was my little miniature gatherings fabric line that is probably all gone now. There's probably not much of it left in the world.
Yeah.
But look what she did to this simple, big blocked quilt.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do is to recreate quilt blocks, stitch them, quilt them in there. So a pinwheel really filled the space nicely. Half square triangles basically, because I'm getting half square triangles from there. So it makes sense to do that, tying it in with feathers. And again, I'm using my rulers all over the place with these, and those are available on my website. If anyone doesn't know that, don't look for them at Primitive Gatherings. But I think that Kaylee's going to.
Kaylee will link everything
Yep.
in the description underneath the videos or in the Facebook.
Yeah,
group.
where you can get those.
Yeah, and Jess can always link when she's already on it. Yeah,
okay,
Jess is already linking your website.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So one thing I want to point out about this design is it's going to look super cool in like that fabric bundle. You know,
red,
like,
yeah,
red and white, blue and white, any of those.
Oh my gosh, a red and white quilt, guys! This
Yeah.
would be like such a fast bed quilt too.
Yeah, one background and then all of the colors will make it super awesome.
I'm always trying to make a bed quilt
Fast.
Yeah,
King size fast.
King
right?
size fast.
And this will do
So-
it. This is a sale. Linda calls them sales.
Yes,
Ship
this is a boat
sales.
sale. I call them boat sale. I was like, is that a boat sale? She sends them to me. Do you want to do flannels? Like,
Yeah. Are we all through the?
oh wait, no, we got to do Sand in the Pines.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do sand. And they've seen this not too long ago, but
Did we say it?
yeah, we always have new people, so we're okay with showing off all the quilts.
Oh,
You don't get sick of this stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I designed this as a kit for Moda during like the Christmas promotion box. They've done it, so it came in a really pretty box. It's
Oh, so
still
cute.
available. It's still
Yes.
available, and it comes with the quilt and enough fabric to make a little runner. So you could make like 2 pine trees and a Santa with the leftover fabrics.
Yep. I kept the quilting fun and whimsical. Again, you guys, I'm getting like kind of the tree shape and recreating that and doing Santa a little bit different down there. Feathers, some swirls, like really swirly snowflakes. This quilt's always special to me because this is the last one I did in my studio before I moved upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
I got a new studio.
Yeah,
I
Linda
was
got
in
a
my
brand new
basement.
studio, and I can't wait to see it.
It's really nice. I was really suffering from being in my dark
So
cave.
and Linda's pointing out what she does, because I know a lot of people don't know what to quilt. They're always like, how do I know what to quilt?
Yeah.
And what she's saying is she takes her.
I take inspiration from the quilt because that's the biggest question, and I know that's like 90% of the issue. Of course you have to stitch it out, but coming up with what I'm gonna do. So I always look at the quilt, the fabric design. I want my quilt to make sense. I want it to be a marriage between Lisa's fabric and piecing to my quilting. I don't ever want it to be like, oh my gosh, like the quilting's just laying on top of it. I want it to be like a part of the quilt. So I'm thinking, okay, whirly swirly snowflakes, and it's whimsical and fun, but I'm getting that tree shape, in this open space. So that's kind of what I try to do with it. I always want it to look like it's supposed to look good on the quilt.
And one of the things I want to point out, like if you love Linda's quilting and you take this quilt top to your quilter and she kind of, gets her design ideas from Linda, when you post that on social media, can you just like tag Linda too?
Yeah,
because
I
that's
love
honoring her.
Well, and I love to see it. And if someone sees it, one of the things that helps me is I can always sell rulers and things or help other people, because I do answer a lot of questions from quilters and things that your quilters reach out to me about,
and it's
certain
just,
questions.
I just think it's just good karma to,
It is
anybody who's
nice.
inspired that work to give them a little shout out.
It is nice.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is.
It's super nice.
I try to.
Yeah.
Try to.
Okay. All right, you get the next one and I'll be the final
Okay.
one. Amy's gonna kill me. The
So,
pile we
I'm
have.
gonna switch.
Yeah, here's the button.
Some flannel quilts.
Okay. We don't have many, do we?
No. But
Okay.
we just have some good ones.
All right. You want to talk about flannel for a little while?
Yeah.
Okay.
and then we'll. That was nothing.
Okay.
This is Granite Peaks. I think you have this in other colors, or maybe this.
Yeah, it
color
came
still?
in red, black, and cream. I don't think we have any of these kits left. But this is called Granite Peak. Yeah. Just simple flannel quilt. Yep.
Again, keeping the designs kind of simple, not over the top. There isn't a ton of fill here. There is around the feather border just so it stands out a little bit more. But this is a really pretty quilt, kind of radiates from the center. So that's why I put a feather wreath in the middle just because of that. Kind of the peaks, you know, having that radiate out. But
We do have kits available in both colors.
oh, kits available in both
All right.
colorways.
Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Because I can never tell.
And sometimes you take into consideration like what the quilt's going to be used for, right? So this is going to be used on a bed, right? This isn't like a wall piece of art. This is a bed quilt that can be used. So we don't like over quilt
I think
it.
all the quilts, I mean, obviously, you know, you want to hang this and it's beautiful, but it's really pliable and soft. You can lay it on your bed. I mean,
Yeah, I always say,
couldn't.
I don't let anybody just drool on my wool applique quilts.
I mean, yeah, exactly. The dog isn't laying on them, of course.
right.
But here's an oldie but a goodie, too.
Yeah.
I think I have a video. If you guys go on my Facebook or on my Instagram, I did a video, I think, doing this.
All right, so tell them how to spell your name.
Okay, so my last name is pronounced Hrcka, like it was Hershk, but it's Hrcka.
So there's no vowel except for the A.
Except for the A.
And
So
the
it's
N.
Linda Hrcka. So whenever I've called people before for something, I get a message, and it's just easier for me to call them back. So I'm always, and they're like, who? And I'm like, the Quilted Pineapple. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that's how you said your last name. But if you go on my Facebook or Instagram, I think I have a little video of how easy and quick this border is to do in these when you have like a little straight.
Long.
Yeah.
And this could be done on a regular machine too, right? Doesn't have to be on a long arm, right?
Nope, doesn't have to be on a long arm. You can use the rulers on both, actually. So that's nice. So this is the number 8 QP curve, and I just flip them back and forth, and it takes like 2 seconds.
This is called turkey tracks. It is flannel.
It's actually called
Trotting along.
It's a turkey track
See?
block. See,
Now,
you can't remember everything.
I have a good excuse because I don't know what they're called.
Yeah,
I
I
was
have
like,
no
it's a new,
excuse. Is that
we took this off at this is at Lisa's house. We took this down to
we
bring
took it down, and we have a new quilt hanger that we're going to be talking about coming up. And I took this off our new quilt hanger. So Linda's like, "Hey, I quilted that one too." So
yeah,
Look at all of them.
oh yeah, I know it's crazy. So these are some of the blocks of the week.
yeah, of course, Linda gets to quilt all the blocks of the week that we do. And if you don't know what blocks of the week are,
so it's a summer program that Lisa has. That is a block of the week, not like a block of the month, but block of the week. So I typically get them anywhere from, depending on how early she starts and how complicated, to right before this went to Houston unquilted, and quilters would come in the booth and they're like, well, how are you going to quilt it? I was like, I have no idea. And I was being very serious.
I think we should lay this one flat.
Yeah, we can lay it flat.
I think there's a lot of, can you see that?
A lot of
quilting in
application.
there or
Each
not?
block is actually different. Just kind of because I had, this is one of those ones where I had limited space. You know, the applique like really is king in this one, like all of Lisa's hard work and her stitching. So I just try to kind of accentuate around that. So I'm kind of working in spaces around it. So
whatever space I need.
whatever space I had, I just try to work with it. So
and
you
this
can
must
see,
be double batted too, because you see that
Mhm.
that is not trapunto. That's her use of the 2 battings.
So even on a block like this, I'm like using the fabric. So the lines in the fabric, I just did like a wavy stitch over it as inspiration, just to make it easy.
And we have lots of this kit left. We over kitted this one. So if you want to do this one might even be on sale.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's
always a showstopper.
Yeah.
2015. That doesn't seem possible.
I know, right? It seems like I just did these.
I feel like I
yesterday.
just quilted it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So then this was last year's. Open that up and you can talk about that one.
Well, I will say this first. We went from this to this, and I was more than happy with Lisa. I was like, yes, when I saw the size. This is Heirloom Rose, so this was 2019. It's so pretty. Look at all the stitching on there. So I want to take a second and talk about all that embroidery stitching from a quilting standpoint. I get the question all the time, do I stitch on it? Do I stitch around it? If you stitch on that intricate that stitching, that embroidery work, the handwork, you are going to make it disappear. So if you take like a block like this, I kind of stitched in between the petals kind of a thing, so it pops, and then around here, because if you don't stitch on the wool, it will puff out. It'll be unbalanced compared to like the background is quilted, and these will kind of be too loosey goosey and puffy, and it just doesn't, gives it life when you quilt on them. So I do quilt on the wool, but just enough to add texture and to tack that down, but without taking away from Lisa's stitches.
So people want to know, like, how does your foot work without messing all this up? Is there like a special foot?
No, so I'm just very careful. I don't move my hopping foot up and down, but I know that others do. I kind of have mine set for Lisa's things. I know that I'm probably going to get flannel. I might have to lower it sometimes, but it's set at a height that it doesn't mess up tension, but I can still quilt these. And when I'm on these, a lot of times I'll use a clear monofilament thread. I use the Harriet Hargrave clear,
and
but
you
it's
get
made
that
by,
directly from her.
I get that directly from her.
Yeah.
But it's by Y, the letters YLI. And it's their Whisper Touch, I believe it's called. So that's my favorite because it's not shiny. Because Lisa's things, I'm working with a lot of not as more primitive kind of stuff. So I don't want the shiny threads. So that's
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now I have a question on this one. Like,
Okay.
I know that the thread is not like cheddar, right?
No. So this is called brown sugar, and it is from Superior. The color is called brown sugar, I believe. I cannot remember the number exactly, but it is so fine, 50 weight. But it's the best thread for cheddars that I found.
And why did you not use a cheddar? Is it
okay? So
like,
when
would
you
it match too much?
So no, usually cheddar's one of those ones where it kind of clashes. I find cheddar is either, because I'm doing a lot of stitching, and when you get some thread buildup, if it's really yellow, if it's really orange, it really shows up on the quilting. It doesn't blend as well. If it was an edge to edge, it might not be as bad, but the amount of quilting that I'm doing backtracking, I like a finer weight thread. So I'm using a 50 weight thread or less on these, because I said that I want to one start and stop. So I travel a lot in the ditch. I travel back down spines. I do things so I don't have to break off and start again. And if I do that, the thread that no one knows how many times I've gone. Like sometimes it's where I miss something and I go back on it. And, so that's why I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I use this.
And then talk about, like, sometimes, like, I purposely don't stitch in the leaf.
Yeah, so then
so
I can stitch out there. And I think that this was a reproduction, or one of them, because I think on an antique quilt, at least I had the stitching went like all the way to the end on the antique quilt. So that's why I did that on the leaves on some of. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't remember.
But if you go all the way to the end, then you can can go around, right? You don't have to stop.
So I pretty much always ditch things because I can travel in.
So like if somebody brought you this, what's the first thing you do? Would you go around all the appliques?
So it depends. Typically I would start with I would ditch this area and I would put some basting stitches down here just to stabilize, and I would do the border and then work my way in, and then I would stitch in the ditch around as much as I could and then advance it. I only advance the quilt once I'm done quilting my whole thing. I don't go through it and stabilize the whole thing and then go back and quilt. Very rarely do I do that. On a few quilts, on a quilt, I think I might have done it with it. Only if there's like a ton of wool on it, or like Portland Rose, if any of you are familiar, that had a bunch of open negative space and then those big heavy appliques, and I was afraid that I would hourglass or make the quilt wonky and not keep it square. So Usually I quilt as much as I can and then advance the quilt.
So if you like have quilting, a lot of dense quilting here and a lot of dense quilting here.
I put a ton of stabilizing stitches before I get to it.
Okay. So when would you, I know that sometimes you'll use starch.
Okay.
When would you use that?
If I was, let's say, sometimes, I might quilt some fullness into it, might be puffy in an area, or if maybe sometimes it's an applique quilt and you've handled it a little bit and then it gets, so I will spray starch onto it. Like if I see an area is going to be like really full, and then I let it air dry and I come back to it. But in a quilt, when we get to Words to Live By, we'll show that. I will talk about that.
Okay.
Because that really,
I just didn't want to forget about that. I thought about that, so I want to talk about that.
And I starch everything. I starch flannel.
So
flannel
what's the name
quilts.
of this one? Christmas Memories, I believe.
No, that one is Christmas Rose.
Christmas Rose is the name of this one. There are no kits. It is. What's that?
There's a wool kit only,
Okay.
and it's out of the Christmas gathering.
All right. Yeah, wool kit only. So all you have to do is get your fabrics, but we have the wools, and then the pattern is in the Christmas Gatherings book.
And there's a mini one.
Yeah,
there's a mini too.
Yeah.
That I
The mini's
quilted
on my
too.
wall at home.
Yes, that we talked about that. I was like, I've done a ton of minis for you, and I was like, oh, they're all in your studio or traveled. So this is Words to Live By. So
yeah, so here you'll see that she does change thread colors,
I do,
and it's
change
okay.
thread.
You know what I mean? You don't have to have a busy back. I mean, I like to see this.
She likes it.
It doesn't bother me one bit to see different color thread.
Yeah, so you can see it here more too.
Yeah, so if you see that.
There's black, there's red, burgundy. So yes, I always match top and bottom threads. Pretty much.
All right, so this quilt is called Words to Live By. It was a summer block of the week at one point.
Yep, it was a three-time winner. It's won 3 times. Yep.
Okay.
Three
I always
different-
say this one won first loser.
Oh, because it's won second. It was the second place. All the seconds.
Yeah.
It's first.
Right, so this is fun because you get to do a couple different size blocks. The motif is changing a lot. The words added a little extra interest to it. I've seen some of them where they don't put the half square triangles on, and you can do whatever you want with your quilts. You don't have to follow the pattern exactly, and that does not really hurt my feeling at all.
Nope.
When you buy a pattern, it's your pattern to make it however you want. And I love seeing the different renditions. I love seeing these in different colors. I love your adaptation. So that's all part of quilting, I think.
And it's beautiful.
Yes.
This is a cool. Each block has a different word. That's inspirational.
Yeah, and I think now, like this was from 2013, so it's 7 years old. If I would be doing this now, I would probably stitch those words. But at the time, I was into like the signature quilts and watching, like looking at some of my antiques that had inked signatures, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna ink them on.
Yeah, and I stitched over all the words because of that, because it was easy to stitch over them. So I just went over them, so I could get it all stitched.
So what's
down.
the trick to do those continuous curves on those half square triangles?
So that's just patience. So I just try to go from one side, just fill it all up at one time, work my way back and forth. But I did use my ruler in it because there's a lot of seams in here, and that just helps me go over. I use my little BFF just to be able to glide over those
like
easily.
to hold them down?
Hold them down.
Okay.
Yep.
This
I use it for
like
that.
heavy.
It's very heavy. So when we were doing this, I used a ton of starch on this, guys, because there's how many half square triangles on this? 500?
640 or something like that.
That's all.
Yeah.
So when I'm quilting this and stuff, you're gonna have some fullness in it just because there's how many seams and thousands of seams. So I would take a section because otherwise my half square triangles, this quilt wasn't going to stay square. If I kept quilting it, it would kind of get frowned. I would keep drawing that fullness down. So I would take an area and I would starch it soaking, and I would kind of rub it in, stabilize it, and let it air dry, and then go back.
Air dry kind of
sucks it in. The more seams there are, the more the starch will work even better. So if it's not starched enough, I'll come back and starch it again and let it air dry. I don't take a blow dryer. I've tried that. Air dry is the best. Trust me, I've tried all the things. And I just starch it right on my machine. You know, my machine's out of the way, the head's out of the way, but I just starch it, stabilize it, then go back and stitch it. So it would stay nice and square, and it hangs beautifully. It hangs flat and beautifully, and it's one of our favorite quilts.
It's very special to me.
This is a special one to Lisa. We talked about special quilts to us, and this is a special one to Lisa.
All right. Let's do a regular applique quilt.
Regular applique.
Right here.
Okay.
So
okay.
we don't always do wool applique. Sometimes we will do just regular cotton
Good old
applique.
fashioned applique.
And I think we had a bunch of people help us with this quilt. So some of you probably have made a block or two. I sent them out to people. I think probably 12 people to help me make a couple blocks in here. And that was fun to do. And I'd love to do more of that type of thing. So if you are really good at something, like maybe you're a good appliquer, maybe you're a good piecer, you might want to message me, because we're just trying to do more things. And if I have a little bit of help sometimes in things like this, that would be super cool, because you can never have enough help. I truly believe in everything that we do at Primitive Gatherings. It's not just me. You all know that. You all know there's a small army working in these buildings, and I cannot take the credit for everything. So if you want to be part of that somehow or some small way, we would love to have you. But just remember what you're signing up for. You commit, it has to get done.
She warned you.
Yeah, no. I warned you. Yeah. All right. So what about this one?
So quilting is pretty simple on this. Just kind of highlighting the blocks. There's just enough to tack these down, because again, even just like I said with wool applique, with regular applique, you do want to put just a little bit of stitching on it so they don't puff out. They'll stabilize them, and it adds a little character to the block. So it's pretty simple, except there is a rogue quilt block at the bottom here that I stitched different. That was kind of fun when it hung in the booth.
So why would you do that?
So just,
see,
you know, sometimes in antique quilts, there's like a rogue or a what do they call it? Yeah.
An odd
In a
block.
We were just talking about that with a piece, like
Yeah.
having something turned the wrong way, honesty block, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call them.
Humility block.
Yeah, humility. But I actually meant to do.
Yeah, sometimes we do things
I do
on
have
purpose
humility.
because we want our quilts to be different than anybody else's.
So
Yeah.
I just added, I didn't tell Lisa. She lets me do whatever I want. So I'm very, very fortunate. We trust each other. And so when she got it back, she's like, oh, I see that rogue quilt block that you did.
Yeah.
She found it right away.
So again, this is called Teresa's Tulips. It's just a pattern only. And we did it in regular cotton, but it could be done with wool as well. If you're a woolly, this could easily be wool applique. But I want to prove sometimes that not everything we do is wool applique.
Yeah, good old fashioned.
Good old fashioned needle turn applique I love this bag. Look at that. Yeah.
And Linda, what type of starch do you use?
Okay, so I use when I piece, I use like the aerosol, the cheap Faultless. Now it's Faultless, starch. I use there's one that's a pump, and it used to be Niagara, but Niagara got bought out by Faultless, or they're one company now. So it's Faultless, and it comes in a pump bottle, and I use that. That's my favorite. I've used the kind that you mix. I find that gives me the best results. It's super stiff. I don't use that on my regular fabric because it's a pump, and my finger would fall off if I was doing yards and yards of fabric. But for the machine, I can get it in a specific area, and it works phenomenally. So that's the one that I recommend. It's the one that I use. If you've had a class with me, I always have it in class, and I show students. I always bring it with me because I'll buy it when I see it. Lisa and I cleaned out Walmart with all their starch.
Yeah. And then we stopped at a different place, and we forgot to look at the
We went to a different Walmart.
Then we forgot why we actually went in there.
Yeah.
We should have got some more starch.
Yeah, we're like, oh, I didn't buy it.
All right, so this is called Pennies in the Cabin.
Yes.
And what I want to point out about this one is when we design fabric, there are lots of fabrics that never make it into the fabric line. And Moda is so cool. Like they send us the strike offs that never make it. And in this quilt, I decided I was going to use those. So there's a lot of fabrics in here that were really never in production, but they worked really well. And even though this is purple and I'm making a black and red quilt, I wanted to mimic how they did it back in the day when they didn't have a fabric store. They didn't have endless amounts of fabric. And I didn't. I only had like a little, maybe like 10 by 12 piece of this strike off to work with. But instead of keeping on collecting them, I thought, why not use those? So that's what you're going to see in here is some of these that never really made the cut for the fabric line. But this is a really fun quilt, and I'd really like to see this redone in the grays and the taupes.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It would be really.
Okay, so tell us about the quilting.
Okay, so quilting around the pennies, I just ditched around the pennies. There really wasn't a lot of room, and you can't really, not going to see the quilting. They're tacked down very, very well.
And it doesn't need it.
No, it doesn't need it. So this is a log. Is it log? This is a log cabin.
This is a log cabin. Yeah.
So they're traditionally stitched in the ditch, pretty much.
Right.
Not so. I'm kind of trying to take off on that. Like I did some straight line stitching, but kind of this, this is kind of a diamond shape. So I created these diamonds in here. Nothing too fancy that would take away from the quilt. And then there's some fanned out feathers that fill the other areas that again I use my rulers. So you did like
geometrics on the black and then fancy feathers on the reds.
On the red, and part of that is because it's going to show a little bit more on the reds, the feathers and things. But these kind of remind me of like buildings or whatever they kind of build out. So that's how those designs, the straight, it looked nice in the black.
And sometimes simple is good, right?
Yep.
Sometimes simple
That's
is
exactly that. I mean, this was on the cover of Quilt Mania one time.
Yeah, this was on the cover of Quilt Mania. It also was in the Flannel Gatherings book. So if you have the Flannel Gatherings book, that pattern is in there. Yep. We do still have the Flannel Gatherings book for sale. So that is on our website.
Yep, that has awesome quilts, everything in there.
Yeah. And just because we make a quilt in the book in flannel doesn't mean they can't be made in regular cotton. And that book has a lot of quilts that are really easy to make and don't take a lot of time. So the whole premise of that book was to make quilts that it didn't kill you to give it away. So like for graduations and weddings and stuff like that. All right, Live a Simple Life. This was just a pattern only that I made for Moda to do as a kit in a pretty box.
Yep.
And we did it actually dark as well. We did it with a black background. Randy McCarty did the black version. And this is my version of the light. And this was just so fun with all the color. And then I stitched the words. So see, I'm getting braver. I, as a quilter, evolve just like you're going to evolve. The more things you do, always try to do something that you haven't done before. So now on this one, see how I stitched that with thread instead of just inking them? I thought, well, I can stitch that. Why not? So each of the 4 blocks have a little saying like, give love,
dream big,
give lots, and live simply. So some little small little reminders that you want to incorporate in your everyday life. And look at that quilting, that easy wavy crosshatch.
So wavy crosshatch is awesome for applique borders because you can easily connect, like your crosshatch, like this part, I would do this part on the outside. I'd jump into here with my machine and do this inside out and then go around the other area and be able to do that one from that side to this side, just lightly marking with my rulers and then doing that wavy crosshatch. There's these beautiful feather wreaths in here, and those are freehand, but there is an extra layer of wool batting in there, so they kind of pop.
So you can put like wool in here, but not out here.
Yep, and when I say that, I do that.
So sometimes she's just putting a piece behind this block. And not anywhere else.
So that's a question. It's how do you layer the batting?
Okay, so on my machines, I have 2 machines. I have an A1 and I have an Innova. In both of those, and I'm sure I can lift my top and there's the batting. And so I just when I advance my quilt, I kind of strategically place it. I lift the top, I insert it, I cut a piece of batting and I put it there and I put my top down and I just make sure they're in the right spot and I kind of wiggle them in. So I do want to point out something that sometimes some things happen. Lisa forgets that she stitched these not on point.
Yeah, so like when I designed it,
So
what happened is I had it all done, but forgot that it had to sit on point. So mine actually is, sitting this way.
So you added
Yeah.
triangles.
So
and she was like, can you quilt something so you don't see it? No one will know.
Yeah, because
no
I
one
actually
knows.
pieced this triangle on to make it on point.
So I stitched these little
ditches there.
Yeah, so I ditched it, and so I just added this quilting that kind of frames these blocks, and no one's the wiser.
Yeah, and you don't know.
She's like, "Do I need to redo it?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I'll figure it out." I was like, "No one will know." I said, and it'll be fine.
Because I'm like, I'm not restitching all those.
Yeah, she sent me a picture, and I was like, "It's fine."
Yeah,
I was like, "We've done lots of things."
See, we all make boo-boos.
Yes, we all do.
And hopefully, because when we do these, I don't really have a pattern I'm working with, so.
No.
I'm
we figure
writing
it
the
out.
pattern as we go, and all of a sudden I realized that, oh my gosh, those are on point, and I didn't put them on point.
Summer block of the week.
Yes.
We just saw this one was shared on.
Yeah, this one somebody just posted in the
beautiful.
Stitch with Lisa group. And
Sunflower gathering.
this is just, I just love seeing these again. But this one got rid of a lot of fabric in the shop, and that's my goal. When I do a summer of the block of the week, I want to use all the fabric in the shop. I don't want my fabric in our shop to have 2 birthdays. So that's my rule. If it has a second birthday, it's very rare. It's only a basic. So I try to incorporate as many fabrics into the quilt as I can to spread the fabric out so we can do as many kits as possible. So that's why you see all this fabric in here. And I think it just makes the quilt sparkle. And we get a lot of fabric out of the shop so we can buy all the new stuff. Isn't that a great plan?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want fabric in my store that's 10 years old. To me, that's not an accomplishment to have, 8,000 bolts in my store and half of them be, 5 years old. So my goal is to sell them at our warehouse sale or use them to get rid of it. Isn't that a great plan?
Yes.
You want the new stuff, right? If I figure if they didn't want it after a year and a half, 2 years, it needs to go.
Yes.
So that's my business theory. If you want to know a little bit how I operate.
That's exactly right. As far as the quilting goes, I had a lot of fun. This is one that's great to show the wool because I would have fun like with the birdhouse. You can see the little birdhouse is quilted. The flowering can has a little design on it just to help to stabilize that. But I'm just adding the nest. Has quilting on the wool. Here's a little dragonfly. He's flying. I mean, just adding my own.
His wings are fluttering.
Yeah, his wings are fluttering.
So this was a different one too. I just want to point out that.
Yeah, this isn't normal.
This isn't normal because we did a pieced block and an applique block each week. And if you notice, this is part of this block. So you don't get to add this stuff on until it's attached to each other. So you would attach these rows together and then stitch those extra little pieces that you didn't be able to attach when you first did the block. So some people didn't really like that, but sometimes you have to stretch out. You have to do things different to create a whole cool method idea, something different than leaving that, because if it's just a boring square here and not being able to go in there, just makes it much more interesting, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a fun quilt.
Yeah, this is a fun
quilt.
A lot of people get the quilting on this pretty close to yours, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do. They do a really good job, like recreating that. And trying to see, do you want Outlander?
Sure, let's talk about Outlander. All right, so Outlander, the fabric just came out this July, which I know it's September already, even almost the end. But this came at the end. At the end of July. And Linda quilted this, obviously. Oh, hang on. We got some pins in here. Okay. So this fabric is flannel,
Mhm.
and
I quilted it in like March. I got it, I think.
yeah,
or
so it's
February,
strip
March.
pieced. So it's a very simple piece. You strip these units, and then you cut them out with our template, and we'll show you our template after we get this done. Too many pins. Okay, sleeve. Now this is the top, right? Okay. So a simple quilt, these Y seams really are no big deal because it really goes together really nice. And Kathy Decker did her own little version of this in the stitch group.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was super cool. And I'm like, oh, my directions were okay. She made it. So sometimes you think about that, but again, I'm going to do another quilt using this diamond string piece diamond coming up in the American Gatherings line. It's called American Outlander, and there's another little star in with the big star. So you'll be seeing that on my social media coming up. But this flannel and how it's quilted is just so awesome.
Yeah,
so.
this really turned out beautiful. I just love this quilt. So again, I'm taking inspiration obviously from these shapes, playing off that and recreating that on this quilt. No feathers again. Lots of ruler work, but not over the top. I mean, it looks more complicated. I'm just recreating this and then placing it and repeating it around the quilt. So it was a joy to quilt. I mean, it didn't have applique, so it was a little different, than I think I had just done an applique quilt for Lisa. So went to this. It was a joy. It was a little bit more modern. It was fun to have fun with combining curves, soft curves, and straight lines. This is also double batted 70-30 with, this has a white 80-20 Hobbs, just because it was a lighter, and so I put the white underneath it. In the center, I actually offset the quilting just ever so slightly so I wouldn't keep coming back to the same point, because sometimes that makes it really collapse in when you keep doing that. So it's just ever so slightly offset a little
on purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah.
So on purpose I did that. So
right.
It wouldn't be like a bullseye in the middle. And that's just, for new quilters, that's just something you learn kind of to offset and do those things so that you notice it. Probably I did a quilt and I noticed it and I was like,
right.
oh shoot.
And this fabric line, like I said, is still available.
Mhm.
It's called Farmhouse Flannels. And we have a 1 and a 2 out right now. So you can make it on either one of them. This is made with 2, and it's a fat quarter tower or a fat eighth. Because I thought if you do the fat quarter, you could put a piano key border around the outside of this if you wanted a bigger quilt. Because I think this is about 72 square.
Yep.
But I think it looks super cool with a piano key border with this strips here. And there is enough if you do the fat quarter tower. You only need a fat eighth if you're doing just this version of it.
Yep.
But
So this
Farmhouse Flannels, there's your curve, huh?
Yep, that's the big curve. I always forget that because these are the bigger curves, and just because I needed a really soft curve to get me from point A to point B, to take up the quilting. So the quilting wasn't, and I didn't mark these. I'm just using my lines on here to advance. And on the other side, I'm using the inside and the outside, depending on where I'm working.
You use all the curve sides.
Because I want to, it's the same curve, so I want to make it really easy for me when I'm working to, be able to move from one point to the other and not have to bring my machine around my body to be able to quilt that. So, and the template for this is right here.
Yes.
Because Lisa and I were talking about all the ideas that you could do.
Yeah, so I'm going to have several quilts using this template, but that's that template before it was, and you got to remember that you lose a little bit of fabric once the quilt's been,
once
it
it's
shrinks.
quilted, sometimes we lose several inches after quilting.
Right, yeah, so your quilt could be like 70 by 70 by the time it's done quilted. It could be like, 68 by 68. You could lose that much because of the quilting will take away from that. And then even if you wash it after that, you'll lose even more. So that's why this doesn't fit exactly perfect on there. But this is awesome. And we are going to do a lot of work with that. And Linda's husband Scott makes those.
Makes all the rulers. Makes
Yes.
all the rulers and templates. I do have to give him a shout out. He does it after he works all day. He works
And an hour drive home.
an hour drive home, and without complaint, he gets them done for me. He's actually this next week, I'm so proud of him. He's celebrating 25 years as a state trooper in Michigan. But he's
Yeah.
Lieutenant Scott Hrcka. He actually works in the crime lab. So you don't ever see him unless you don't
Yeah,
want.
he's not giving you a ticket.
Yeah, he's not giving you a ticket. He's does all sorts of crime scenes, sees all sorts of things. But 25 years, and he makes them for us. So everything's made in the USA. We actually look for product acrylic. We go out of our way to find it, to get a distributor that's US based, so we don't have to deal with that. The only thing that we recently had to deal with is everyone was making PPE with acrylic.
Yeah.
And I told Lisa, I was like, you're not gonna believe this. I never had to worry about getting acrylic. And now when I go everywhere, I see it everywhere. I was like, yep, this is where
In all the stores,
all my-
everybody's got their acrylic.
all my acrylic is no. But so we make them. It's awesome because we bounce our ideas off of
He's
him,
just
and we
super
say
smart at everything too.
yeah, he doesn't think he knows how to do it, but he really does.
He
So
figures it out.
he
He's a
does.
genius. He is.
He figures it out. So
So he's got a laser making all those rulers.
Yes,
And so I've got him working on a few projects, and I'm kind of like, he's like, how are those templates good? I'm like, sorry, Scott, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there
the
yet.
fabric line isn't
The
here.
fabric line is
so-
late, you
but
know?
yeah, I took out actually a bunch of antique quilts and that I had in my collection and sent them to Lisa. I was like, that Outlander star, I was like, look at how these a variation almost, I mean, they weren't the same, but we were shooting ideas off of one another. Oh, we have minis.
Yeah, let's do some minis. Did you do this one?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yes, I usually do freebies and summer block of the week.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
every time we do a summer block of the week, we always do a little free block each week. So each week in your kit, you got another cool little block. And this is how we like get rid of some of the scrap in the warehouse from kit cutting. And I think these were all left over from some snowman kits that we made. So we had a ton of neutral wool. So then I came up with that design for that one. This one is called Be the Good.
Yep, flannel. And
Yep, and we still can kit those. So this one, Coxcomb Medallion. This one was in the Little Gatherings book, and I believe it is also a single pattern now. So once the books go out of print, we will take the stars in the book and make them single patterns. So that's what this one is.
Yeah, and these ones, I of course did a nice border here, but the quilting around it, sometimes I need to keep it simple for Lisa, like deadlines and things like that. And sometimes they don't need too much quilting. So there's just the light framing that I use my templates and rulers in that one. Those are like my right
think this
hand
is mine.
too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I had to wash it.
this was, oh, you did? Yeah, it has been washed.
Oh, I know why. I think this one, no.
Yeah. I
In
did
my
this.
truck, Jess. I think this one got dirty and from one of the shows.
Okay.
So I wash it. So see, you can wash wool. Even this red on this white.
But not in hot water.
But not in hot water, yes. So we do have a video on YouTube. We have a little series, right? We're starting our series. So I talked about wool quilts, wool on cotton, wool on flannel, wool on wool, how to wash your wool quilts, your wool applique. So look for those and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will see this video on YouTube as well. And then, you know, it'd be nice if you like it.
Yeah, I did.
Leave us a comment.
I did wash. It's just water. It's just water.
Cold water.
I have washed actually one of my wool in hot and dried it.
And how did it come out?
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
I just
It was
don't
fine.
want,
You don't have to. I wash and dry all my quilts. All my quilts get personally tortured. It's nice to know that nothing's going to happen to them with the nylon thread or with the clear thread, poly thread. And so it was mine. That's my
I
one.
think this is yours.
I think it is too. That's,
warm.
you grabbed it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
keep
because I didn't
talking.
put ice in mine.
Question. Do you quilt the minis on your regular machine?
Yep. I put that on my long arm. Yep.
Or
So sometimes I might have more than one to do, so I'll put them on the same backing. If not, sometimes I just have it like right in the middle. It looks silly on this big machine, but it's just easier for me. I'm a much better long arm quilter than I am on my domestic now, which is the other way around. For those of you, when you're on your domestic, you're moving the paper, and on your long arm, you're moving the pencil. So it is different. I can do both, but I'm just more proficient on my long arm now. So yep, I do load even the little ones on there. Sometimes there's been some little ones that have taken me just as long as a big one, I swear. But you know, when you're going around all the appliques, they might.
Yeah. All right, this one.
Just little sheeps.
Yeah, stand alone. So this is a cute, another little example of the Summer Block of the Week freebies. So in your kits, like I said, you get one, and then at the end, I put them all together and come up with a setting, and then we offer a finishing kit for your blocks. So it allows me to make a little money if you want to purchase the finishing kit from us. And don't forget about our finishing kit for this year. Yeah. For the what did we name it? Did we name that one, Jess? No, we didn't name it yet. So maybe you want to give us a suggestion for the name of it.
Yeah, because we had Portland Rose came from our name.
Yeah, somebody named that. Yeah, we didn't know what to name it. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So super cool. Again, talk about your quilting, girl.
Okay, so there's just you know, a beautiful feather. There's actually some filler around here because I think the border was originally bigger, but you sized it down, and I wasn't sure, so it didn't make a difference. This has some light. I'm still using some rulers here. Let me grab my little baby here.
There's
that I
your
use. Yes, that I use. So here he is, using them on both sides. I flip them both ways, and it makes it super easy. And this BFF, you would think it was house decor at our house because I put them, I tend to quilt with a hooded sweatshirt on so I can keep the pouch pocket and put all my goods in there. And then at night I unload and I put them in my bathroom, I put them in my bedroom, and then I go and get a brand new one from my husband's stash. And I get in trouble because
so you should like auction off your ones.
Yes, I have all my BFFs are all over the house. So.
All right. This one's called Better in Stars.
Yes.
And this is just a little, sometimes we want to do some mini quilts because not everybody wants to make a big quilt. And this was a very simple, nice quilt. And then Linda did her magic on it.
And this is one, I'm going to reach underneath here because I think I used, this is one of those quilts that, although it's small and it's mini, but I had used one of my larger curves on there because I needed a really soft curve because I wanted to be close to her piecing without having to do a filler. So that's why, even though, I mean, this is like almost 3/4 of the quilt, a lot of times I get that question about would I use those big curves on things, and I'm
like, why
like,
do you
you're
need the big
surprised that because I needed a really soft curve to get it really tight.
So like a gentle curve, not like a
gentle
big
curve. Yep.
swoop.
So the smaller the sizes, sorry, I don't mean to reach in over you. The smaller size, the larger the curve you're gonna get, and so it's just gonna depend on. Like I said, I could use this on here. I am gonna get from point A to point B, barely. But do you see how that curve I would have been into the piecing with that? So that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna kind of lay down my rulers and see which one works the best.
Good idea.
So that's.
So here is another freebie to plant a flower. Now you don't really see a lot of the quilting on this one when it's on those dark fabrics, right, Linda?
Right.
So therefore,
I just keep the quilting pretty simple on these. I mean, some of the blocks I might throw some feathers in just for fun, but there's just that wiggly crosshatch that I call that's just really soft. I want to quilt it, but I want to make sure it's quilted so it looks finished and polished, but my quilting isn't going to overwhelm and it's not going to show up. So I don't want to put a bunch of work in to something that isn't going to show up. Right, so I want my time to be pretty efficient.
And then we have a couple black quilts here too. So we'll show all the black quilts now. And we're almost done. Bear with us.
Linda, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you change upper tension and stitch length when you long arm?
Okay, so the only time I change upper tension, I'll tell you guys, is if I'm using the monofilament. I really want to loosen the top tension. My bobbin tension is always the same because I use the Magna Glide pre-wound bobbins from Filtech. So they're already pre-wound. They have a little magnet on them, so that goes in towards your bobbin case. You take the tensioner out of there, the little, I call him a little guy that looks like his hands are up, but it's a little tensioner. You take them out of there, and I just put those in. And I use those on both my machines for edge-to-edge quilting and custom quilting. It's a 60 weight thread. It blends in. The only thing is there isn't a ton of colors, but they tend to blend in really well, so that's fortunate. And I typically use 50 weight for custom quilting or lighter if I need to on top. And I only change the tension for the monofilament. I'll loosen it up and then I'll put it back. My stitch length is always about a 15 on my edge or my custom quilting. My edge to edge is usually around a 12. But on my A1 that I do the majority of my custom quilting, I will put it at about a 15 because I like a small stitch. I think it takes the curves better, easier, and it's a little denser.
Another question. How do you hold the rulers and move the long arm at the same time?
Okay, so when I'm on, so for here, let's say I'm going to grab, because I know what number it is. So I used the 20 here. So I'm going to hold with my hands. So any of you, some of you have arthritic hands, so you would just want to lay it, if you can't open your hand like that, you want to just lay your hand like this. And what I typically do is you want to have your pinky and your thumb. Okay, my pinky or this finger is like my anchor, but I'm not holding down hard, like pressing hard. I'm just guiding. I usually gently lay my hand on here like this, and I use my pinky, and I have little tiny hands, okay, little like T-Rex hands, guys. They're not big. And so for me to handle, and I just keep it here just as a guide. This hand, I'm guiding my machine with my right hand. So the reason the two sides are so beneficial is when you get to the sides of your quilt and you're holding like this and you're reaching around, what I can do instead of reaching, with my machine, I can easily bump out and use the inner side of it. So when I come down, I don't have to reach around my body. Or when you're at the bottom here, especially, I can use the inside of my curve here. So I'm not trying to pull my machine underneath my arm like this and try to do it, like you needed an extra set. So I can just, bump out and use the inside curve and then use the outside curve and do it like that.
And keep moving.
Yep, because when you get to the sides and the bottom, the top is easy because you are able to go over here and it's much easier to room. When you get to the bottom here, that you can't do that as well.
I would think that the top and the bottom would be the same. The sides would be
not
different.
Yeah, but when you get to the bottom, it's awkward because you don't have the space.
And it's a mirror image, right?
Right.
Too? So it's not straight up and down.
This is actually the top of the quilt, and this is the bottom, but the way we're holding. But you know what I mean. I hope. So when I am at the top, it's pretty easy to stitch that out like this. But when you get to the bottom, you don't want to awkwardly hold that. And the more chances, the further my ruler is from me and my machine, is the more chances that I have for my machine to come off of it, not to get a nice straight steady line, because I'm not pushing hard. I'm just gently holding that template as a guide and my finger there, and I can easily do that.
And when you're doing that, you are the stitch length though, right? You're not, do you have a stitch regulator when you're?
Okay.
I
do have a stitch regulator, but on my A1, it's not as responsive as probably the newer machines. Not as much as my Innova. So I keep it in a cruise mode. So it's kind of regulated, but it's still not, I'm just used to it kind of thing. So when I hit go, it's going. And so it's already moving. It doesn't wait for me to move it. Like it starts stitching.
So what's the best advice for somebody who wants to be good at machine quilting?
So my best advice is give your time to not be good at the beginning. Allow yourself that. But to take time to practice. I cannot say that enough. You're not going to be good after 20 minutes of practicing. It's really going to take time, and allow yourself that time to practice. But what I would do at home, or when I took my daughters to dance, is I would draw feathers. I would draw pebbles and circles, muscle memory, and then I would take it to my machine and practice on my machine.
Because one of the things I'm impressed at when you teach, because I've watched this, is you show them your first quilts. And they are not good, are they?
No. And I don't even know how I had the wherewithal to save them. And I put a muslin on the back and dark thread on, and you can see all the things, guys.
But it's really, I think it's really encouraging for someone who looks like that now to say, okay, if I keep at it,
yes,
I will be
it's
good.
so true, because
Right.
I was like, I'm terrible.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I know there is some natural talent going on here.
Well,
I'd be lying to
I worked
say
really hard though.
right.
So
Yes,
really
you
hard.
work hard. You don't give up. You do
Yeah.
put lots of hours in, and it wasn't easy at first, was
No, it wasn't. I mean, it really wasn't. And I'll tell you guys, for our family, the long arm was a huge purchase at the time, and I was like, I just pray I get really good really fast and I can do this, because it was a leap for us. And so I was determined to like really practice as long as I could, so I could get business in, because I was going to do it as a business.
Right, because you had young kids at home.
Young kids and
twins,
and you know, I wanted to make this work, but I would draw, and I always show my students that I show my first quilts, and I show them drawings, and I show them, you know, it's okay. I would start simple and then add things and try to challenge
skill
myself.
build. Yep.
Yes. And I still draw, I still doodle, and I'm not an artist by any means by drawing, but if I can get some type of shape on paper, I know that my brain, I'll be able to do it. And just think about like writing your signature. When you first started to learn that in grade school, it was probably choppy. You kind of had to tell yourself what to do. And now you can do it without even thinking about it in the dark. So feathers are like that for me. I can do them upside down, right side right, because I was practicing, and I've quilted millions of them. So that's why that's an easy go-to for me. So that's the other thing, is I tell people, if you're not sure you can do it, try on your own quilt, but maybe stick with something that you know is like gold for you.
But stitch your quilts. Don't just keep practicing on 2 layers of
Oh,
fabric.
don't do that. Muslin, that's the thing. That's the other thing, is I always show quilt designs, especially to students that are actually on quilts, because I can stitch anything on muslin. There's no seams, there's no nothing, and it's easy. Yeah, practice on your quilts. That's what I did. I took out my quilts and I just said, I got to figure this out sometime.
And how long did it take you to be proficient, would you say?
Well, no, I'm still learning. So I got my quilt delivered in January. I had some issues with the machine, and then I started taking quilt customers in March. So, but I like I said, I mean, I quilted several hours a day, every day. So
and a lot of people will give you quilts to practice on, right?
at
with
the beginning,
no expectations.
Yes. At the beginning,
of,
yeah,
yeah.
I was fortunate. People will give you quilts to practice on, and then go from there. So I was doing that in February, and then went from there. But I spent a lot of time on my machine. I chained myself to the machine. I literally did.
Right, so we have one last quilt to talk about.
Yep.
And we'll quickly go through it. And I guess on this one is as you know, you progress in your machine quilting, I progress in my stitching and my design.
So true.
Yeah, I mean, it is, this whole quilting thing is a journey. So always remember that. And we make mistakes, right? We do dumb things. You sewed the same thing 3 times wrong, right?
Yes.
Remember?
Yes,
Yeah, last night.
Yes,
so
I did.
don't be so hard on yourself if you make those dumb mistakes, because we all do. You know, some of us will admit it and some of us won't. We think, oh, you're a professional quilter, you never make those mistakes. That's a lie. All right. Anybody who says they do that, don't believe them. All right. Nobody's perfect. We all are human. We all get tired. We all, you know, it is what it is, but just enjoy what you do and don't be so hard on yourself. And remember, very rarely are people naturally good at everything they do right away. So kind of keep that in mind at no matter what you're doing, whether you're hand stitching, whether you're machine stitching, right? I mean, it's all about loving what you do and creating. I mean, I don't know what people do who don't quilt. I don't. Like, what do they do with their time? Clean their house all the time?
I don't know what they do. I'm always doing things.
So what I want to say is just enjoy your quilting journey. Enjoy finding quilting friends who love what you do, and just
give yourself some grace.
I don't know what it would be like if we didn't have, you know, and do we talk every day? No, we don't talk. Probably sometimes we don't talk in a month, but we are good enough friends that if we know each other are busy, and we just, we know each
Yeah,
other
I know
enough.
she's traveling and stuff.
Yeah,
Sometimes
so,
I'm like, are you busy
You know,
right now?
a quilting buddy
No.
doesn't have to be there 24/7.
No.
You better talk every day, that type of thing. But just find some quilting friends. I think your life will be so much more fulfilled if you have people to share this love of with. And like I said, we appreciate you all listening to us for this long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, you probably need a drink because I've been
No,
sneaking
I was-
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is called My Crazy Life. This was, I believe, a 2016 summer block of the week.
I can't remember.
I don't know if this, I don't think we have kits for this anymore because guess what? Some of, these are wool appliques, but all these background pieces are flannel and they look like wool. But that's the cool thing about my Moda fabric lines. I can't say enough about Moda as a fabric company, how they treat us, how wonderful they are, the wonderful quality that we deal with. And I wanted to point this out on the last quilt, but we purposely will do like a non-print just so I can show off Linda's beautiful quilting sometimes.
Sometimes she'll ask me, she's like, should I put something? I was like, just leave it.
Yeah, yeah. So
was like, "There's a lot
sometimes,
going
this
on."
is so busy and you don't really see a lot of the quilting in here. So I leave some room sometimes or some blank spaces so she can show off a little bit to make the quilt, to amp up the quilt a little bit, to give it a little bit more substance to,
And this is one of those quilts that I was fortunate. I just went for a quilt retreat impromptu with some girlfriends. My very dear friend Patty took me away to get relaxed and like help my ulcers heal and all this other stuff. Scott's like, you need to go. But we stopped at a quilt shop in northern Michigan and this quilt was in the window but she had taken it and made a few of the blocks her own.
Yeah.
So
and that's what's
it was
good
cool
about
to
this
see
because it's called My Crazy Life. So I encourage you to, take a few of the blocks and put some things like, this is my dog Jeter. So you all don't have Jeter, you have somebody else. So you would, find a silhouette of your dog, or you would put some things in here that mean a lot to you. And we, like I said, we encourage you to make these quilts special. And one of the things I really love to do is every time I would buy a kit early on, I would add 1 or 2 of my fabrics to it. So my quilt was different. Mm-hmm. And that's, try to make your quilts a little unique. Don't try to make them so exact replica of every quilt that, you buy. Yes, you like that quilt. Yes, the palette is what you like. Yes, yes, yes. But try to do something a little bit more for yourself to make your stuff unique.
It's so true.
Yep. All right. So does any other questions before we hang it up?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, let's see, what else we got.
Let's show all your templates together.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
I think I forgot one of them because I left it. It was
show all your templates together.
the large, there's a fat edge ruler, which let me show on a quilt. Let's see here. On my block here. Let's see here. That's good. So on the straight rulers, like I said, they have 1/4 inch lines going both ways, which really helps with a lot of Lisa's things that I quilt because they might be small piecing or odd sizes. In the 45s, these 90 degrees and 45s go across the length of the quilts. So there's the regular edge, and these are called fat edges because they're a little bit wider. There's one huge one that was in my suitcase that I forgot it because I couldn't pack it in my.
Okay, so are these like sets?
How do
these go?
So
the sets.
These 3 come as a set. There's these 2 as a set. The big curves come as a set. I don't know where the other one is. It's around here somewhere. Or I forgot him. And then there's 6. Oh, he's right here. So these 3 are set, and these are the original 6 are set, and you can get them all together.
So
I
you
would
have
have
like
them packaged
you have
with
a
them all.
whole deal. Like
I have the
you
ultimate. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I have it with it all. These come in clear as well as green. These just come in green. These come in clear as well as green.
Because some people have a different preference.
Yep. You can just request it. The original is with clear. I had them, and then I put them in the green so you can see it. I just wanted.
They just show up a little bit on the lighter stuff, or what?
Sometimes on the lighter stuff. There was some quilt that I was doing that I was like, make them in the green. I was like, I think they'll look cool. I could see it with the clear, so these come in clear and green. Like I was just someone requested. I don't have these on the website as the green, but you can request them. A set that's going to a friend in Australia.
This is a set of 2, right? You just left the big one.
Yep, I just left the big one at home. I didn't realize it until it's at home in Lisa's house.
All right, so everyone, I think Jess has linked Linda's website.
Yep.
And it's thequiltedpineapple.com. and she will have all of her stuff
Yep,
on
everything's on there. I have a DVD on there. There's also drawing ones that are thinner, like for travel when I go to doctor's appointments or when we were doing things in the car when I was driving to Houston. I have them so I don't have to haul the 1/4 inch, they're 1/8 inch ones for drawing. But this is the original 6. That's where I started, and then.
Does anybody ever say, "Hey, I would really like to buy those for my long arm quilter. What should I get her?" Like a
Yes.
present that, like,
Yes.
like I mean, you know.
And I always start them with there's a set that has the straight because you need good straight rulers and you need the curves. This is my starting set. Like this is always
Right.
like what I recommend.
So my point is even if you're not a long arm
Yep.
quilter, maybe you want to buy one or a set for your long arm quilter because you appreciate what you.
And I do have that. I actually
Yeah, I
have,
would
or I
think
have, or I have hubbies that buy them often.
for the-
That's,
yep.
I just
Okay.
with generous hubbies.
Jess, did you have a question?
I just had a lady who asked what would be a good starter set.
Oh,
Okay,
for-
perfect.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there is a set. If you're looking for the curve, I always start here.
6.
You won't not use any of them. You'll use them all.
Right.
Because they're just like a tool, like I said, depending on what you're doing, what you're working on, you will use them.
Yeah, and we just found out that you're not going to be teaching in Houston this spring. So
No,
you missed
so no
out
one's
on
teaching
that.
in Houston.
Yeah, no one's teaching in Houston.
No one's teaching in Houston, but
Yeah.
I will be doing. I had this, and I want to thank everyone who said beautiful prayers and things like that.
Yes,
So I
yes.
found out I had all these ulcers, so I was kind of like off social media, just trying to heal and do all that.
Yep,
And
you got to take care of yourself. You can't always be
who
giving
knew?
and
Who
stuff
knew?
like that. So you'll
And
see
so-
on
yeah.
Linda's Instagram, Facebook, the Quilted
Yep.
Pineapple, right?
Yep.
What's your Instagram?
So my Instagram is Hrcka, HRCKL _ the Quilted Pineapple, but you can search Linda Hrcka or the Quilted
And you
Pineapple.
do some little
you'll find me.
videos on there too sometimes that I think are fun.
Yep. And I have Facebook. That's Linda Hrcka, the Quilted Pineapple. You can find me there. Website is thequiltedpineapple.com, thequiltedpineapple.com. And that has my selling site, which is the Quilted Pineapple at bigcartel.bigcartel.com.
Okay.
So,
And you're not on like Etsy, right? You just only do your stuff on your site. Yeah.
Yep, we sell, we do it all. So it's
Okay.
just Scott and I, when
Yeah.
I get these, like, whoever's in the shipping department, I'm like, Linda Hrcka's in the shipping so it's funny when I get that, or so it's us. We try to ship things out as soon as we can. Sometimes they get a little delayed, but we try to ship things out.
All right. Any other questions,
Yeah.
Jess? You good?
I'm trying to think of anything. that
Yeah.
we had.
Well, if you
I
have
probably
any
remember
questions that you think of after the fact, put them in the comments, and we will monitor all the
Mhm.
comments, and we watch those.
repost them.
Yep.
So I
Linda
can
will go in
share.
there, and if you have any specific
Mhm.
questions for her, she will answer them there. And remember, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, I have to say that you need to subscribe, hit the bell, like,
Yes.
comment,
Because we like to see
tell
it.
Linda how awesome her quilting is.
No, I don't have to
Right,
do that.
right.
But
Yeah, so thank you so much for listening.
yes, thank you.
Yes,
we had so
we
much fun.
appreciate you, and don't be afraid. Jump in and
Yes, that's the
create.
biggest thing. Yep,
Yeah.
just jump in and do it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.